All right. Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. I am here with Gena Thomas, who I have the pleasure of interviewing today. We're going to talk about her involvement in the For Every Child project and also, some of her experience with things like this in the past. Before we get started, I really want to honor and acknowledge that today is Juneteenth, which is a big day. And we realize that we're both white women. And so this is a day we would normally choose to be silent. But it's really important to us to really be a voice for the voiceless. And this is a project that we just don't have time to wait. There are families being separated, parents from their children at the borders. And this is something that we need to act on now. But we really want to just honor the day, and that, this is a part of our way of doing that, is just being, a voice for those who need us to speak up. So that being said, Gena, can you tell us a little bit about this project and how we can get involved?
Yeah, so we are a group of Christian women who are trying really hard to make people aware of what's happening currently at the border. There's a couple of things happening and a couple of things that we have written in two letters. One letter is going to the man in charge, Chad Wolf, of the Department of Homeland Security. Mm-hmm. And the other one is going to the Senate Judiciary Committee that has oversight over Department of Homeland Security. And so basically we want to make them aware of what's happening and want to hold them accountable to what they're doing. Mm-hmm. So back in 2018, 2 years ago, the zero tolerance policy separated 2,737 children from their parents forcibly. It was a year-long process, and even though the public didn't know about it until April of 2018, and then there was big public outcry, including 3,000 of us Christian women who did the Not Without My Child campaign. At June 20th, the policy ended, and now we're back again 2 years later, and even though it's not as overt, this family separation, it's being done kind of more undercover and covert. What's happening is this thing called binary choice. And it's basically that immigrant families are given a choice to either keep their families together in detention or separate so that they can protect their children, basically protect them from coronavirus. What a lot of immigrant families don't know is that there's an agreement called the Flores Agreement that the U.S. government has to abide by that says that, started in 1997, it says that immigrant children should not be held for longer than 20 days in detention facilities. Now, that's not always what happens. We've seen that on average, immigrant children are in detention facilities 185 days.
Oh, wow.
So a half a year, right? I mean, that's crazy. So this binary choice that's being given to families is really a way in which the administration is trying to get away with holding children, holding the parents even longer. And really the thing is that they don't have to hold the families at all. There are plenty of other ways that they can handle these situations, and plenty of ways where they can create a court date where the families have to arrive to go through the detention proceedings rather than holding them in detention facilities. So we're trying to make this more aware, make the public more aware of what's happening. And then there's another thing that's really disturbing that's also happening, and that is that unaccompanied minors who come to the border, so that means children who don't have adults traveling with them, arrive at the border under 18, they are being turned away immediately. And in some cases, that means they're from Central America and they're just being told to go back into Mexico with no protections, no nonprofits that are picking them up, no family members that are being advised. And some of them are being sent back to the countries that they came from, again, just being dropped off at the airport. This is incredibly disturbing because it makes these children at much higher risk for trafficking, for assault, for sexual assault, for death, really. Mm-hmm. And this is really something that is incredibly inhumane and we're just really upset about this and finding out that this is happening again. So the letters that we have written, we are actually going to be sending them on Monday to the elected officials, and we are asking women to sign. So we're hoping to get as many signatures as possible. So if you're listening to this, please go sign it. It is, I'm sure Kelly will link it.
Yep.
In the notes, and then also on my profiles, Twitter and Instagram, which is Gena L Thomas, Gena L Thomas. I've got the link there as well. So I hope that everyone will go and sign. The other thing that we are asking people to do once we send the letters is that there are certain states that the elected officials on the Judiciary Committee are from, and so we're asking if you're from any of those states to specifically talk to and send messages to your elected official and tell them that you sent them this letter, that you've signed this letter, and that you disagree with what's happening at the border. This is all part of, I think, what's really happening in our nation. And I think, the movement of reawakening, I think, of white America to understand that Black and brown bodies are not being held at the same level as whites. And it's really important for us to pay attention to the areas in which this is happening, because it's really widespread. And I wanted to bring attention to something that Dominique Gilliard had written. So he's written this book called Rethinking Incarceration, which is really an important book, and I hope everyone will go buy it if they haven't read it already. But he says in there, private prisons and county jails hold 90% of immigration detainees. Private prison companies' financial success is intertwined with immigration legislation. For example, in 2010, an immigration bed mandate was introduced by Democrat Robert Byrd. This congressional directive mandates ICE to keep an average of 34,000 detainees in its custody daily. And so they have this quota that they need to fill. So if they pick up more people, then they can fill this quota and get the money that they get by fulfilling this quota.
Oh my goodness.
So there's a lot of things that are intertwined with an immigration system and mass incarceration, and it's important for us to pay attention to that. Another thing that I think would be really important for anyone listening to pay attention to is that there's public bail funds that are happening all across the country, and some of those are specific to immigrants. And so I would encourage people to pay attention, to help out with that. I think that's the very, very important work that people are doing across the nation, and to pay attention, because some of those bail funds are going to immigrants who are being held in detention, and then ICE is coming to get those. So if the bail is set, then they can be released and not be deported unnecessarily. And as we know, not everyone who gets put in jail is guilty. And I think it's really important that we pay attention to this stuff. So I was in 2018, at the time of all of this happening with zero tolerance, my family and I were fostering a daughter from Honduras. She's 5 years old at the time. She had come across the border as an unaccompanied minor, but she actually arrived at the border first with her biological mother and her stepdad. The smugglers that they paid money to get them there took the mom as a hostage. And then the stepdad and the little girl crossed into the United States together, but then they were separated pretty much immediately once they got into border control custody. And that really probably was because of zero tolerance policy. She then went to live with her stepdad's sister in North Carolina, and then was neglected at that home. So that's how she came into foster care through our county. And my husband and I, it was about 4 months of working really, really strongly with social workers and consulate workers to try to get her reunited back with her mom. By the time that she came in custody with me, she had been in the States for about 4 months. And her mom had escaped from the smugglers in Mexico. And so the mom returned back home to Honduras. And so it was a couple of weeks, actually, 2 weeks, I think, right after zero tolerance policy ended, that we were able to travel with Julia back to Honduras and watch her reunite with her mom and her family. And in the midst of this despicable policies, it's hopeful to hear stories where, wrongs are righted, and families are reunited. I think, as Christians, we support family, right? We're pro-family, we're pro-life.
Yes.
And this is really a big issue that helps us, if we get involved, to really stand on those stances that we say we believe, and to really be pro-life in a robust way. So I hope people will get involved.
Yeah, and for everyone listening, you wrote a book about this, Separated by the Border, and I'm going to drop some links below. Yeah, thank you. I'm going to drop some links below. I actually have a list of Black-owned bookstores, so I would really encourage you to go out and buy Gena's book, also buy Dominique's book, Rethinking Incarceration. I think those are two books to really start educating yourselves about this, these policies and how they really affect Black and brown bodies in, much different ways than they would affect white bodies. I think that's really important to start becoming aware of. So I'm going to drop the link of the Black-owned bookstores that you could purchase those from. But also, like Gena said, we really want to get a lot of, women in particular, signing these letters before they go to the lawmakers and the elected officials. So I'm going to have the links, the link to sign those letters below as well. The other thing I think I remember seeing in some of the information that I got was that you can even tag your elected officials. Probably starting Monday when they have these letters, to really kind of put some extra pressure on them publicly. This will also help raise awareness. So I will find that information and drop their handles below, so you can @ them on Twitter or tag them on Instagram, whatever whatever way you can kind of get behind. One, raising awareness, and two, putting pressure on these elected officials so that they know that we're going to keep moving. We're going to keep asking. And the more that you kind of really keep pressing at them, the more changes start to happen. Also, like Gena said, if you are in the states that these particular officials are in, call them up, write to them, whatever, reach out to them and say, you're not going to stand for it. You represent me, and this is not in line with what I believe, because families shouldn't be separated this way.
And I will say that sometimes people get discouraged, like if they call senators and they just have to leave a message. And don't get discouraged by that, because they actually count those things. They pay attention to the messages you leave, the emails you send, even if you never get a response back. They do pay attention to that, so don't get discouraged by that. They are hearing what you're saying.
Yeah, and I think, honestly, it probably is a good sign if you end up having to leave a message, because that means the sheer volume of calls they're receiving means that they're inundated, and volume, speaks loudly. So I definitely would encourage people to reach out, send the emails, call on the phone, and also sign the letters, and then tag your elected officials publicly, to really raise the awareness to other people in your sphere of influence, and also let them know that we're not going to stand for this, and that it doesn't need to be this way, and there are laws in place that they're skirting around that they shouldn't be. Part of my mission is to really empower women to be able to make a difference in the world without feeling like, not having this credential or that credential means that they can't. And this is one way that you can take action today and really make a powerful difference for families that are impacted by this. So, thank you, Gena, for making time to be here with us today. Is there anything that we missed? Any final nuggets that you want to share?
Yeah, just be in prayer. There's a lot going on.
Yes.
And the Holy Spirit's moving. So
amen.
Let's join in what the Spirit's doing. So
yes.
Thank you so much, Kelly. I really appreciate it.
Yes, this was so fun. I'm so thankful that we got to connect. And it's really I say fun, but it's also really just it fills me with power to know that I can do something to make a difference, and it's pretty simple. So again, I'm going to drop the links below, guys, and just look for that in the next couple minutes, and really get take action now. This has to happen now. This can't wait. So, all right. Thank you again, Gena. It was so great. We'll see you later.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.